everybody, and welcome back to the Remnant Christian Book Reading channel. We're here again today. Sorry for the delay on the book readings. I had some something pop up new on my schedule, and I'm trying to figure out how I can do these book readings again. I think I figured it out. So we should be back on, like Donkey Kong. We're back in there. You know what I'm saying? So today we're gonna be doing the Keyhouse. Just chapter 11. It's going to be a short one today. Just chapter 11. Now, if you remember last time, they when we were in the book, David and Caleb went to go get a car part for Dad, and it ended up being old Bill Grayson's car part thing. And yeah, some interesting things were said and all that stuff. If you don't remember, try and go back if you really want to. If not, then just stay on here. Who knows? Maybe it'll jog your memory. Anyways, with all that being said, let's go ahead and get right into chapter 11. The Last Riddle. As soon as Caleb and David arrived home, with their frightening encounter sufficiently behind them, they handed their dad the car door handles with few words and hurried up to their bedroom. The diary was still resting atop the nightstand, waiting to be investigated once more. As they unbound it and opened it to the last written page, there was the third riddle. 5 lines long, simple, but draped in mystery. Caleb read it aloud. Old King Cole was a merry old soul, and a merry old soul was he. He called for his pipe, and he called for his bowl, and he called for his fiddlers 3. And then underneath it, it simply says, on your journey, watch your step. What? David said. A nursery rhyme? You've got to be kidding. This makes no sense at all. But his brother was not so easily frustrated. He was deep in thought. The fiddlers would have played together somewhere, and Mom says the homeschool room was a music room back in the day. David's frustration quickly turned to curiosity. I like your thinking. Let's check it out. As the two entered at one time was a room specifically for the playing of music, they immediately began searching. Within seconds, David asked, What exactly though are we looking for? I guess a tip, like the other two, Caleb replied. But nothing in the room. Not even the old window cranks looked anything like the metal tips they had earlier discovered. Caleb just stood in the middle of the room examining every square inch of the walls that were now lined with bookshelves and desks. But nothing, not even a possibility. What about the vents on the ceiling? David wondered out loud. Dad says air conditioning was only added a few decades ago. That couldn't be it. I don't know then. Any ideas? Not really, unless... Nah, Caleb sighed. Unless what? Unless it's referring to an old smoking room. But there's no way great-great-grandpa had one of those. Yeah, probably not. But why don't we ask Mom? David suggested. Caleb nodded his head, and into the kitchen they scurried, where their mother was finishing getting dinner ready. So, Mom, did this house ever have a smoking room? Caleb asked rather abruptly. The question appeared odd. A what? A smoking room? Now, what kind of a question is that, boys? Their mother had been stirring a pot of rice on the stove, but now turned toward her sons with a quizzical look on her face. What's this all about anyway? Well, David stumbled, not knowing how to respond. We were wondering, Mom, if you could guess a riddle. David looked at his brother wide-eyed like he was about to give up their deepest held secret together. But Caleb went on. Let me see if you can guess where this is in the house. Old King Cole was a merry old soul, and a merry old soul was he. He called for his pipe, he called for his bowl, and he... The furnace, she exclaimed. The what? I mean, why the furnace? What gave it away? I'm sorry, boys. I should have let you finish. That was a good riddle, honestly. So, why do you think it's the furnace, Mom? David inquired. The coal, the pipe, the bowl. The furnace downstairs has a bowl that holds the main pipe, and it's used to burn coal a long time ago. But kids, I think that's a very clever riddle using a nursery rhyme like that. You should ask your father. He would love it, Bethany suggested. So, yeah, the furnace. That's really good, Mom. You're a good guesser, Caleb said. Well, thanks, boys. But what's this about a smoking room? Oh, it was nothing, Mom, David began to explain. Not a big deal. I'm sure the furnace used to smoke a lot, Caleb interrupted. You know, back in the day. Good guess, Mom. Bethany gave her boys a funny smile. You boys sure are acting silly tonight. Thanks again, Mom, David called out as the two headed for the basement. As they were trouncing down the stairs, David grabbed his brother's arm. We can't go down there, Caleb. I just remembered. You remembered what? Caleb was irritated. He had almost stumbled as his brother jerked him around by the arm. Jared said, his voice suddenly got soft, almost a whisper. Those dead guys are protecting the treasure from us. David, I assure you, there are no ghosts in this basement. Now flip the switch and turn the light on. It's starting to get dark down here. The sun was setting, and its last rays found little entrance into the two small basement windows. David stood there for a second thinking about what his brother had said, but he was not quite convinced. Fine then, he said and turned the light on. The boy skipped down the rest of the steps and quickly walked over to the furnace in the back of the basement. The main pipe that fed the house heat during the wintertime attached firmly to the top of the furnace. Where it joined was a large bowl, just as their mother had said. As each Noland boy stared at the doors to the furnace, their jaws dropped till it hurt. There on the face of each door were the words, Fiddler Brothers Company, and a picture of three men playing their fiddles while dancing. I can't believe it. This must... But Caleb's words were interrupted as the lights suddenly went out. All around them was darkness. Not a ray of light anywhere, and not a window nearby. David grabbed his brother's arm. I told you! We shouldn't have come down here! I knew it! Whoa, this is creepy. Oh, pull out one of your flashlights. How do you know I have a flashlight on me? Seriously, do I need to guess? Of course you do. David reached into his cargo pants, left deep pocket, and produced, as if by magic, a small flashlight. How did you know? Caleb just looked at him, shaking his head. Now, take this and go turn on the light switch, okay? I'm not doing it. It's dark down here and scary. David, there are no... Look, just take the flashlight with you. It won't be scary. David reluctantly conceded and hurried up the stairs as quickly as his short legs could take him. Turning the switch on, the worry eased as light once again flooded the basement. Look at this handle, it's different than the other one. Caleb pointed to the furnace handles when David arrived. Apparently, and happily unharmed by any malicious ghosts, a line ran down one of the handles. The tip of it comes off, I bet, David figured. Can you see how? David felt behind the handle tip, and within seconds of pressing, popped the tip out. Pulling on its slender body, he slid it out. Like the others, it was about 3 inches long and an inch wide at the base of the triangular shape, with small curled hooks at each of the 3 corners and one on its tip. I wonder what "on your journey, watch your step" means, Caleb pondered. I'm not sure, but we've got the piece. Let's not worry about it. Caleb grabbed it and said, Here, come with me. He turned and ran up the steps to the kitchen, flipping the light switch off and then all the way up to their room. He burst the door open and dropped the handle part on his desk next to the other 2 curious metal pieces. The two just stared at them in bewilderment. Boys, their mother called in rather sing-songy fashion. Dinner's ready. The two looked at each other, frowns tugging at their cheeks, and called back, Coming! But dreams can always be put on hold at the mention of food. As they gathered around the dinner table, Caleb asked, So, Dad, how's the car coming? Hold that thought as I pray, okie dokie. As Dave gave thanks for the food set before them and for the blessing of family, friends, and neighbors, David choked on the last thought, though he believed he recovered nicely, excusing himself. After a amen, Dave looked over at his sons. So, any problems with neighbors? After a quick glance at his brother, David replied, Not really. His dog's not the nicest creature on God's... He's not the nicest creature God created, I suppose. I'm sorry. Whose dog, son? His father inquired. Old Bill Grayson, our neighbor. He owns the salvage yard where we picked up the door handles. His dog surprised us from behind the counter today. Scared me half to death. David made sure he said no more than the necessary details. No mention of Grayson's antics or surly words, and certainly nothing about Caleb clobbering his dog with a rock the other day. Caleb looked impatiently at his brother. Not a big deal, though, Dad, really. So, how's the car coming? Good? It was a clean transition back to the It was a clean transition back to the original topic. No further talk needed on that old subject. Tell you what, those auto repair manuals on how to change car parts sure come in handy. Couldn't have gotten the first one in without it. Turning to Bethany, he added, Looks like it will be a little bit of late night for me, honey. Gotta get this done tonight. I'm sorry, dear, but before you head out, Caleb, you should tell your dad the riddle, Bethany suggested as she looked his way. Oh, it's nothing, really. It was just about the furnace. He figured that by giving the answer, he would not have to share the riddle and the reason for it. At least not until they had everything figured out. So, what were the two of you doing in the basement earlier? Checking out the furnace? The mother asked. Well, actually, did you know that the Fiddler Brother Company made that furnace? Caleb offered. Let me guess. 3 Fiddler Brothers? Yes, actually. You boys are so clever, she said. You kids were in the basement earlier? Dave asked. Yeah, were we not supposed to be? Caleb was puzzled. No, that's fine. But if you left the light on, no worries though. I turned it off. Next time though. So, that was you that shut the light off, David sighed with relief. Thank goodness! We thought it was maybe an electrical problem. Caleb stared at his brother with one of those "I told you so" looks, though feeling a bit of relief himself. I am so sorry, boys. Nothing's worse than a dark basement at night, that's for sure. Yeah, that's for sure, David agreed. No worries, Dad, Caleb chimed in. As the dinner wrapped up, Caleb and David helped clear their plates and wipe the table down. It was their mother's turn to do the dishes, so the two of them scurried upstairs to their newly found treasure. Staring again at the three objects that lay on the desk before them, with little clue as to what they really were, Caleb finally spoke the obvious. What are they? They don't look like anything I've ever seen before. David pulled his desk chair over and sat down next to his brother to examine the three objects. He took each of them in hand, one at a time, turning it over and over. Well, there's certainly no treasure, Caleb sighed. The hooks look like they would grab onto something, though. But what? I don't know. David fidgeted some more with the metal pieces as Caleb continued thinking out loud. The diary said they were to open the way to some treasure. I guess like a key, but these things definitely don't look like keys. Well, what does the diary say exactly? I mean, David turned his attention away from the objects in his hands and toward his brother. Let me see. Caleb picked up the book he had left on his desk and began to thumb through it to the page of the riddles. Okay, it says exactly, "For in this house you shall find the answers, and so together they shall open the way to the treasure." He read the last part slowly, weighing each word. Interesting. Together. David had stopped playing with the metal pieces and laid them now on the desk before him. Assembled into one three-dimensional triangle, an oddly shaped key, if that's what it was. What? That's amazing! You figured it out, little brother! But what? The triangle shape on the rock at the end of the tunnel! David suddenly cried out. It's the same exact shape! I'm sure of it! That would mean it's not the end of the tunnel then! And the adventure continues! David said with a sly grin, rubbing his hands together in delight. So it does. Caleb became lost in thought of what lay beyond the rock that had barricaded their dreams only days before. Certain the treasure would be found just on the other side. The three riddles had led them both to understand that their home was not the main house that held the buried treasure, nor was it a house of many keys, just the one. No, indeed, they both realized, and at the same time, came to realize that this was the Key House. And that's the end of chapter 11. I am sorry I'm not going to do too many more today because I have some other things I have to do. But next time we come in, God willing, I'll do a little marathon. We'll try and get 2 to 3 chapters in there. A little mini marathon for you. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Now that we know that they found the key, do you think that they're going to find the treasure easily? Or do you think that there's going to be more to it? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, remember that Jesus loves you. And I want you all to have a good night, day, or whenever you're watching. God bless you all. Bye-bye.